Welcome to Foodytime. I'm Jay Fedigan, and in this episode, I talk with Nikki Daigel. Nikki spent a lot of time in Greece when she was growing up. Her parents are Greek, and she has a real love for Greek products and especially artisanal products. So much so that she started her own company called Portoula, and she imports the most amazing forest honeys that you've ever tasted. She also has a great story of how she got there and talks a lot about the importance of beekeeping in Greece. Enjoy. Nikki, thanks so much for being on Foodytime. I really appreciate it. And, one of the things that I'd like to know is how you've gotten to where you are today. What's the path that you've taken? I know that you come from your parents are Greek immigrants, and you've got a strong Greek connection. And if you could tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My parents are both from Greece. They were born there and raised there, and they both immigrated here in the 60s, which is when a lot of people from Europe and from Greece specifically came to the States. And funny, they actually met here. They're from villages in a remote part of Greece that are 10 minutes apart. So they had to come here, I guess, to find each other, which is always funny to me.
Well, that's sweet. I mean, that's it.
Yeah. But I've always been really connected to Greece. I did live there as a young girl with my family. So I went to school there for a number of years and we lived there. And so I've always felt like I sort of belonged to two places.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, it,
Kind of a dual identity.
it's a dual identity, but I think what's really important about that for me personally is that there's such a contrast in culture and values and in the way of life.
Mm.
And sort of having experienced that from a young girl all the way to an adult,
Mm-hmm.
it does help you figure out what you value and what things are important to you.
Right. Right. And so you had a career that and changed your path. And can you tell me a little bit about what that was like?
Sure. So I worked in healthcare, completely unrelated, in account management, and that was pretty much my entire career was in a healthcare related field.
Mm-hmm.
But the calling to do something of my own was always pretty strong
Yeah.
inside me. And for various reasons, I wasn't, or didn't feel like I could do it while I was raising kids and doing all that stuff. But there did come a point where the calling became really strong and so strong that I couldn't ignore it anymore.
Uh-huh.
And it helped to be locked down for a while, of course,
Mm-hmm.
because it did definitely shifted perspective for me and for a lot of people.
We can't ignore the impact that the pandemic had on all of our lives. And
Yeah, I think sometimes as long as you're following what's calling you,
yeah.
you don't really have to question if you're doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
You're sort of led where you're supposed to go.
Yes. Yeah, I always say sometimes it feels like you get on a fast-moving train and there isn't any getting off,
Yep.
you know?
Yep. So once this idea of trying to merge my two cultures and to really share what I loved so much about Greece in ways that I think are not well represented necessarily here.
Mm-hmm.
So
Like
that
like what? Can you elaborate on that? What?
Sure. I think in Greece there's it's a very different economy. So not being a capitalist economy, there's a lot of arts and a lot of appreciation for art and for craft
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people making art and craft that is really exquisite.
Mm.
And what's really lovely about being in Greece for those that haven't visited is that no matter where you go, it all looks different.
Hmm. I've never been to Greece, so I'm certainly high on my list of places I want to visit.
I hope you do get there.
Mm.
But it's, each store is an expression of the person who owns it.
Mm-hmm.
Each person who walks down the street is wearing their expression of fashion.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same as sort of fads that we tend to follow here or the, overabundance in big stores and,
Mm.
kind of one flavor of things.
Right.
So that became kind of something I kept seeking out. And when I would go on these trips and things that I would bring back, and people were always really interested and wanted more. And I thought there's got to be a way
Mm-hmm.
to take this passion that I have for all these amazing products and for this kind of the ethos, right?
Right.
Associated with that and bring it back.
Well, and how does honey get into this? How do you make the connection to?
It was accidental, to be honest. I mean, this honey's been part of my family's life since I was a young girl. So there's a very special kind of honey that comes from the part of Greece where my parents are from.
Mhm.
And it's special even by Greek standards. And I say Greek standards because Greeks take their honey very seriously.
Uh-huh.
But like wine, the part, the terroir, I mean, if you can use that word in honey, really does impact the flavor profile of the product.
A lot of people don't understand that there are different types of honey. I think most Americans, it's just blossom honey, right? Is what we're used to, and this is tree honey. It's a very very different. So if you could maybe just describe what the honey is and what the difference is between what you import.
Forest honey is indeed something most people in the US are not familiar with because we don't really have it here. I mean, 99.9% of all honey in the States is blossom honey.
Mm-hmm.
But there is another category of honey called forest honey. And the way bees make forest honey is they eat the sweet dew that's left on the bark of certain species of trees.
Mm-hmm.
And the honey that's made in this way is naturally lower in moisture and it's naturally lower in sugars. And so it tends to have a much thicker consistency. The color is more deep, but it doesn't crystallize the way that a blossom honey will either.
Hmm.
So it has these properties, but most importantly, the flavor profile of these honeys is really dimensional
Mm-hmm.
and really beautiful. And there's definitely forest honey in other parts of Europe. So people may have seen forest honeys from France. There's a lot of, sort of mountain forest honey that comes from other parts of Europe.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to be more bitter,
Hmm.
where Greek forest honey is beautiful and pleasant to eat all the way through.
Yes. Yes, I had some oak honey on my toast this morning,
Oh,
and it
good.
was remarkable. And I swear I can still taste the little bits. It was it's such a wonderful, complex flavor. It's like drinking the wine from Margaux or something, the Chateau Margaux, and having some of those flavors and things that stay with you for sometimes hours. Anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that makes actually, I just got goosebumps. It's exactly the reaction that I love. And it's what I love most about when people taste the honey, the expression typically on their face is one of it, joy. I mean, and that's really the whole point. The whole point is to have more joy in your life every day. And, my belief in sort of the backbone of the company values, if you will, is that if you are more intentional with the choices that you make and you really choose things that do offer something special in your everyday experience, it will make you happier, right?
Couldn't agree with you more. No, you're absolutely right.
Right. You're thinking about that breakfast and you're able to recall all the flavors, and that is the best thing. I mean, it carried you through the whole day.
It did, and it was just a piece of wheat toast with some honey on it, but it was, it's still, it completely stuck with me. It's great. But anyways, how did you get in? So you said the story about how you got into honey is where I interrupted you last.
Food was always part of the plan for Portoula,
Mm.
but it was never meant to be the product that we started with. Because food's hard, you have to clear FDA, the margins are small, there's a lot of regulation, it was never intended to be the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was ready to start the company and to source product, you could not really travel freely. There was still, a lot of restrictions on travel, and there was a lot of unease about travel. And so when I went to Greece in 2021, sort of on this mission, I wasn't able to go many places.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sort of stuck. And I was stuck in a beautiful place, which is my dad's home in our village,
Mm-hmm.
which is a magical place, truly a magical place.
Is it in the mountains or where? What is that?
It is in the mountains. It's really high up in the mountains. So the part of Greece that my dad is from, it's a tiny village called Akavos, and it is in the Arcadian mountain range.
Mm.
So that's how you get those mountain ranges, the big mountain range in the Peloponnese in the south, and we're sort of foothills of it, but the foothills of it are still 1,000, you know,
Right.
ups and meters up, or 3,000. It's pretty high up, and it's very remote. There's very few people and a lot of trees
Mm-hmm.
and plant life. but forest and mountains and so on. Anyway, so I was sitting there and I was lamenting to my husband on Skype
Mm-hmm.
that I couldn't travel and what was I going to do? And this is terrible.
Right.
And he said, "What about the honey?
Mm-hmm.
People love the honey." And I said, "Oh, not the honey. I mean, that's a whole thing." That I'm telling you, it's the honey. That's the secret.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone loves that honey.
Mm-hmm.
And so I met with our beekeeper and I asked him if he might be interested and how much did he produce in a year and could he keep up with demand if people really loved it and was willing to let me private label it because I was trying to build a brand.
Right.
And he said, "This has been our dream and we never really knew how we could achieve it. So we're
Right.
definitely interested in
And it's multi-generational. Right. It comes from generations and generations.
reach of beekeepers."
That's amazing.
Greece is unusual in that beekeeping is one of the most revered occupations that someone can have. It's typically passed down generation to generation, and people treat beekeeping like their grandparents did.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about new methods, it's not about modern technology, it is about how to do this thing, this craft, in the way it's always been done, in a way that they know works and produces a beautiful result and takes care of the earth and the environment that they're in. And Greece is probably the only country in the entire globe that doesn't have a problem with bees or bee population or bee health for that matter.
Huh.
And it's because of the beekeeping
Mm.
and because of the traditional methods in which people beekeep.
Mm.
So our beekeeper does a very, aside from being very traditional, also practices a type of beekeeping called nomadic beekeeping. And that's when the beekeeper physically moves the hives through the season, which is extremely labor intensive. And I've watched it firsthand and can tell you that it is extremely labor intensive. But they basically move the hives to different areas in the beginning of the beekeeping season, which is like late February, early March.
Uh-huh.
The hives are sort of closer to the sea where it's a little bit warmer. And then they move, usually around late March, beginning of April into the mountains when it's warm enough so that the bees aren't in harm,
Right. Right.
because of the cold. And that's when the first production of the forest honey starts.
Wow.
And there's a sequence to it. So they sort of move like through the season to get all those different types of honey. It's pretty awesome.
Sometimes when I talk with folks, you know, I say what they do is like they make an artisanal product, and sometimes people that ruffles their feathers a little bit. Where do you fall on on the term artisanal honey or the?
I mean, I think that is the description of what it is. I mean, it's printed on our label on the jar. That is truly what it is. It is an artisan product. It is made by someone who is fully committed to this one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you, I mean, having spent the month of September there just recently,
Yeah.
that's when the harvest is sort of over, and I wanted to taste, all the honeys that came from this year's harvest and to think about what we're bringing. And I had the chance to spend some time in the hives, watching them work and understanding more about what they were doing. And it was amazing to me. I mean, I truly didn't think I could fall in love with the product in the process any more than I already was. But the more that I learned, the more special I recognized that what they're doing is so special. And the fact that I can share this amazing product with the world is really quite a privilege.
Mm-hmm.
But to support beekeeping that's done in this way is, I think, something we all should care about.
Yeah. Um, and I would be remiss if I didn't say that you have won some prestigious awards as well. What was that like?
The awards were honestly, I mean, that was a day I'll never forget.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were going through the process of bringing the product to into the US, one of the things that we do with every harvest is that we have a lab test each honey
Mm-hmm.
to be sure, number one, that, if we say it's fur honey, there has to be a certain amount of fur in the honey for you to call it that. So we always make sure that we're, labeling appropriately and characterizing the honey as it should be. But what happened, which had never happened before to my beekeeper, was that the lab called us and they said, "We've never tested anything this pure. we really think you should send this somewhere. Someone else should try this honey because truly we test honey from all over the country. But we've never tested something that was this pure.
Wow.
So he shared that with me. And of course, we know it's a great product and we love it and think it's amazing and better than everything. Great. But I said, what, let's put it to the test. And I sent it to London. So the Guild of Fine Food in London is sort of the world renowned specialty food taster. And they taste products from all over the globe. And it's a blinded test. It's solely based on taste. So your packaging is removed. It's just what does it taste like?
Right.
And each one of our honeys won an award. And it was honestly one of the greatest games because, again, it's great, but that validation does mean something. And it means something to a lot of people when it's on a shelf.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big deal.
Right. And it wasn't like, a pie contest in Iowa.
Right.
It was a real deal. Wow.
And a bonus is some of the comments from the judges. I mean, these are, food people that are tasting the product. And, one that sticks out specifically is that it tastes like the forest floor after a rain. And I thought, oh, man, I love this.
Yeah. That's absolutely great. It's so where do you see this headed? Where's what is the, if you're looking down the road, 5 years, are you are you expanding to other products? Are you gonna where do you see this headed?
So I think there's a huge opportunity still to get, this out in front of more people. I think, so far our honey has gone as far as Sonoma County, California, which we're really excited about. There's a new honey tasting room that's opening. So they're be featuring some of our oak honey and some of our pine honey, and we're super excited about that.
Yeah.
But we're also bringing in new flavors, which people are excited about. So bringing in some thyme honey that's coming next month.
Wow.
And a rare harvest fir, which is unbelievable. If honey was cashmere, this is what it would taste like. That's how we describe it because it's that smooth and delicious and amazing.
That was great.
But there are other products that we are looking to bring in also. So one of the famous items for our part of Greece is this pastelli. I don't know if you've ever heard of pastelli, but pastelli is almost it's like an ancient energy bar. It's literally sesame seeds with or without nuts held together by honey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty great. So now we're going to hopefully, be looking to add that sort of a thing to our offering. There's also other products. There's a really special balm that my beekeeper makes. It's an all-natural balm that's made with an infused olive oil. The olive oil is actually infused with an herb that grows in the mountains where we're from. 40 days it sits in the sun with this herb, and then it's mixed with beeswax. And you can heal any skin irritation. I mean, I had a really bad burn on my hand from a frying accident last year. It was really bad. Something exploded from the fryer, like into my hand.
Oh.
It's the only thing that healed me. And it's pretty amazing stuff. So it's, it's a lot of fun things.
And I assume at least right now, the majority of your sales are through web sales or through online stores or.
Yeah, so we started as a direct to consumer e-commerce site. We've been expanding our wholesale because it's really hard for people to remember that you're online.
Right.
And so we're trying to be more places where people shop, and especially people who are looking for a special product like this. So we're excited. We're launching a couple of new stores this month, which I'm very excited about. And hopefully it'll just grow from here.
Well, that's great. So I've been doing a lot of the talking there. Is there something that you wanted to talk about that I didn't get to? Is there something that we missed or any detail that you want to share?
The only other thing I wanted to mention, and this is really about Greece, it's something that I tried to carry through in the company offerings, is that in Greece, things are packaged beautifully. And everything is giftable. And when you walk into a shop, you come out with what looks like a gift, whether it's for you or something you're going to give to someone. And that's something that we have really taken into account in our own offerings. So our honey comes in beautiful gift sets. People love to give as gifts. So if anyone's looking for a really unique gift for someone, they could certainly look to us for that too.
That's great. Well, this has been wonderful, interesting conversation, a fabulous product.
It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on your show. Thank you so much.
Thanks. No, it's been great. Nikki is great. And one of the things that I love about doing Foodie Time is talking with people who are so passionate about what they do. And clearly, Nikki is passionate about Greek products, and in particular, this forest honey, which, by the way, I have to say is fabulous. Well, this is Jay Fettigan. I'll see you next time on Foodie Time.